Okay, Rob, we recording.
Okay, gentlemen, we are recording. Achanamik the rubber. We on, yeah. Okay. Here we go. Turn it about. Okay, I've got it. I've got a turner up on an 8. It's 43A. See what happens when we don't learn for a few minutes. Get a bit rusty to run. 43A. I'll give it. You want the number 6 because you're looking in a Sfaria 6. It would be. I think it's there. Is it right? Azu Turas Draken. What does the dragon look like? Is that the 43A.
43A.
You want me to find it in there?
Yeah.
Because there could be a few 43As over here. Did I take mine? Supposed to bring glasses, did I? Reading glasses for the size fonts. 43A.
And then, the weather could have.
Yeah, we're in this region.
So you're saying you're right.
But,
In Kappa Burkes.
I'm on seconds of it.
Memphis Kinders.
Here it is. Here it is. I hope I'm right because of my eyes without reading glasses.
Both the Mishnah and the Brass have mentioned the figure of
Of a dragon.
the dragon.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're talking about dragons. It's all about 43A. If you've got alt scroll, you're on the right hand side. We're talking about dragons. Are we ready to roll, guys? L'chaim, l'chaim. L'chaim, l'chaim. We have in mind our soldiers. We have in mind the people, the hostages. Hashem should have Rahmanas. Bring everybody home. Everybody should be safe and sound.
A few hours ago.
And send Mashiach,
They
exactly.
said they were killed by an Israeli strike, but
Wait.
your lungs.
So yeah. So just to Tamar Bat Yaakov Eliezer. So Michael has yahrzeit. When is the yahrzeit? On Wednesday night. Wednesday night for Tamar Bat Yaakov Eliezer for his mom, grandmother, your mother. Yeah. It's what is it now? 3 years. 2 years. 2 years. So
They vote for my grandmother.
for your grandmother,
Shmuel Netta.
Esther Bashmul Netta, today, 5th of Shvat. So we have in mind their names in our study. So the Mishnah and the Gemora had mentioned different figures, different symbols that related to Avodah Zarah. So in other words, there were various shapes and forms and figures that if anybody found them lying around in a sculpture, in an ornament, in a coin, in curios, that certainly in that day and age, you had to worry that maybe this thing was made for idolatrous purposes. And in the previous Gemoras, a lot of these different figures were listed, figures and symbols. And if you remember, it spoke about people that make images of the sun and the moon and the stars. And one of the things that was mentioned was an animal figure called a drakoin, which is a dragon. Actually, you can hear dragon in the word, drakoin. A drakon, yeah. You can hear dragon in it. Now, dragon, we know, is a bit of a metaphoric figure. There aren't really dragons, but it was a very big figure in all different kinds of mythology, Greek mythology, Roman mythology, and there was certain deities, certain types of Avodah Zarah that they would go and make images of dragons on whatever it was, either that they'd sculpture it or make an image of a dragon on stone or whatever it was, and it looked something like a snake. In other words, artists draw things differently. So there isn't a, sorry?
What the?
Mem Gimel Amud Aleph.
Mem Gimel.
Mem Gimel Amud Aleph. So the question is whether they meant a serpent. Chumash talks about serpents. It doesn't talk about the actual dragons. But so the Gemara wants to describe what do we mean over here? And the practical ramification was that if a person found any kind of figure lying around, like they found a statue or an ornament or something valuable, they wanted to have benefit from it, was this piece of whatever that they found avodah zarah or not? And one of the sensitive images which the Bacher and the Mishnah mentioned was draken, was a dragon. So here the Gemara starts off by describing what it looked like. Toner Rabbanon, the rabbis taught. Let's see if I can switch on the thing that points. Annotate. Is that him? Yeah. Toner Rabbanon, the rabbis taught. Eizehu tzuras draken. What is the form of a draken, of a dragon? Pirush Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar explained, Kol sheyesh lo tzitzin bein prakov. It's an animal-like figure. It's a slimy animal-like figure, like a bit of a, how would you call it? Crocodile or giant lizard,
Yeah.
snake. But what you'll notice is that they draw it with scales between the joints. So that is Kol sheyesh lo tzitzin bein prakov. It has scales between the joints. And then in the same discussion, it says that commenting on what Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar said, Machver Rabbi Asi motioned. In other words, he made an expression with his hand in the discussion to show that he wanted to contribute to the discussion. It's an old story, Jews talking with their hands. Machvar Rabbi Asi made a motion, but in Pirkei Tzavar, the primary issue is that it must have scales in the joints of the neck. More than any other joints, they must have scales in the joints of the neck. If not, it could be that they've drawn a crocodile or they've drawn a snake. But if they've drawn it as a scaly creature with scales in the joints of the neck, or according to Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, generally speaking, scales along its body, at any place where there are cartilage or bones, that means that it's this image of a dragon. That means that this was probably a sculpted ornament for avodah zarah, that whoever made it did it for worship. It wasn't his idea of decor, of a nice big piece of decor for his home or the lobby of his company or whatever. The intention was avodah zarah, was idol worship. Omar Rabbi Chama bar Rabbi Chanina, Rabbi Chama bar Rabbi Chanina comments halacha Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. The law is ruled according to Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. So in other words, he confirms that what Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar is saying is the way in which the law is ruled. And so it actually is. If you go into Shulchan Aruch, it does say in Shulchan Aruch that if you want to know which images you have to be careful of when it comes to ornaments, when it comes to statues, you have to be careful of this particular dragon image, because it was very common that this represented avodah zarah, that this represented a deity of sorts.
It sounds more like a dinosaur.
Sorry, it actually does sound a little bit like the dinosaurs, or you've seen what do they have, the guys that run around in Indonesia, the Komodo dragons.
Scary.
Yeah, those are scary things.
Like an armadillo and things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Those anteater things they have, like scales. But
Yeah.
the normal dragon doesn't. Looks like
Yeah.
a skin.
But here it's more, I think the dragons that they're referring to here are more of a metaphoric kind of creature. Artists would draw it, but I don't think it's a depiction of an actual of a real animal. The problem with this particular creature is that it was very common for its for avodah zarah, that this was something that they would serve. Then the Gemora continues with a story. And what's interesting about the story is sometimes you can learn a lot of lessons from a story. Says the Gemora, Omar Rabba Bar Chana, Omar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Rabba Bar Chana said in the name of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Pam achas one time, Hayisi Mahalech Acha Rabbi Eliezer Hakapor Beribi. I was following Rabbi Eliezer Hakapor. He was known as Rabbi Eliezer Hakapor, the distinguished one. And he was going on his way. Umatza Shom Tabas, he found a ring, a valuable ring. V'alea tzuras droken, and on the ring was the image of a dragon. So Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi was following the great sage Rabbi Eliezer HaKapor, and he happened to see that he had a stroke of luck. He found a valuable ring, and on the ring there was the tzura, there was the form of a draken, of a wagon.
Dragon.
So dragon. How's Mia? I think I drank too much of my whiskey. Wagon, dragon.
Yeah.
First, he encountered a young Gentile child as he was walking on his way. Basically, what we're going to find out is he was looking for a Gentile who would be able to annul the idolatrous status of this particular find. We already learned that a guy who serves Avodah Zarah, interestingly, has the power to revoke the status of Avodah Zarah that something has. A Jew cannot revoke the status of Avodah Zarah that something has. We learned that already. Nor can a non-Jew who doesn't serve Avodah Zarah. The one who can revoke the status of Avodah Zarah is a non-Jew who actually serves Avodah Zarah. But it must also be a particular kind of non-Jew or Gentile. It has to be a non-Jew or Gentile that understands Avodah Zarah. So the first Gentile that he encountered was a child. So he didn't say anything to him. He didn't say a word. Then he found a Gentile who was an adult. And he said to him, I need you to do this transaction for me. Bit of a strange, imagine, it must be a bizarre transaction for a Gentile to be asked in the street, could you take this ring, which has a dragon image on it, and officially nullify it? Say, this is no longer for idol worship or idol service. Then I'll be able to use it. I can melt it down for some gold. I can do whatever I want with it. So he finds this Gentile, and he asks him to do this. And he says to him, make this nullified, and he refuses. He doesn't want to do it. So what did he do? Seems he was a big guy. Staroi, he gave him a smack across the face. And then he listened. So, and then he nullified it. He explained it to him that he needs to put him to bed. He explained to him nicely that he better follow on and be mavatalit. And he was mavatalit. Are you okay?
No. I shouldn't be topping. You should have been eating at the same water. Yeah, no, drink water. Give him some whiskey.
Okay, sorry, I went up to.
That made me laugh so much.
So it's okay to ask someone to revoke it.
Yeah. So this is exactly.
Doesn't have to be done on their own intent.
That's exactly what he's going to say now. That's exactly what he's going to say.
Listen, you give him the first love.
So he says, from this story, we learn three things. Shmamina klas. We learn three things from this story. Shmamina oived kichavim vatal avodas kichavim v'sheloi v'shel chavayro. We learn that a Gentile can nullify avodah zarah, whether it belongs to him, whether it belongs to another non-Jew. This fellow had nothing to do with this particular thing, but because of the fact that he was a certified non-Jew, he serves avodah zarah, and he got a club. So certified means sometimes you need somebody that's not Jewish. Now, you know, in Bnei Brak, they were selling their chametz to a guy for years and years, and somebody discovered that he was actually Jewish.
Well, a Goyish Shabbat. Yeah, I was the lady. Yeah. He was a Jew. Give his money back.
So for certain things where you need a guy, you have to know for sure that it's a guy. What happens, we live in a world where we got mixed among the nations, and you have many lost Yidden. You have people who are Yidden, they don't even realize it. So,
Some the thing
yeah,
You heard the one about that Kohen that came to Shiur.
yeah.
And they were doching. He says, I want to dochen. Well, no, it was a Kohen. They said, no, only you have to be a Kohen. He said, no, I want to dochen. You can't. Who are you? He says, I'll give you $10,000. I'll give you 20. He says, forget it. After Shiur, the rabbi goes to him and says, why do you want to dochen? Because my father used to.
Because my father was a cunt.
My father used to know he was a Kohen. It's exactly the same.
So you never know.
He's a similar joke.
You laugh, so don't think.
Okay, so we learn a few things from this, says the Gemora. Shema min class, we learn three things. So the first thing we said is that the Gentile, he can revoke the status of Avodah Zarah of his own things and somebody else's. Ushma mina, we also learn somebody that understands the nature of Avodah Zarah, and how it works. Mevatel can be mevatel, can nullify,
Qualified Avodah Zarah.
and a mature person, somebody that doesn't understand how it works, cannot be mevatel. That's why he didn't ask the minor. If you remember in the story, the first non-Jew that he encountered was a child. But he didn't ask the child to help him revoke this Avodah Zarah, because the child doesn't understand Avodah Zarah, therefore he can't be mevatel Avodah Zarah. And the last thing, which was very interesting, a non-Jew can be mevatel Avodah Zarah even if he's compelled to do so. Otherwise, somebody could say that it wasn't consensual. He got a smack. He thought, this is a big guy. I'm not going to start with him. What do you want me to do? Say, that's not Avodah Zarah. Okay, I proclaim it's not Avodah Zarah. I need a good guy to proclaim that that's not Avodah Zarah. So he says, okay, if you're going to punch me in the nose, I'd rather say that it's not Avodah Zarah. Whatever you want me to say.
Reminds
You
me of
know?
the late Chief Rabbi Rabinovitz.
Yeah.
Punched someone in the park because he insulted him. He called him a bloody Jew and whacked him. Knocked him out.
We need a few people like that. So basically, the Gemara is saying that three things are learned from that story of Rabbi Elazar HaKapor. One is that a Gentile can be mevatel Avodah Zarah even if it doesn't belong to him, which is strange, because if you remember when we first learned that he can be mevatel Avodah Zarah, what was the reason given? Because he's given up hope that that thing's going to help him. He has an idol. It's his deity. He prays to it. He hopes and thinks that this is going to help him. When he turns around and says, you know what? It's not working. This religion that I was taught is not working. It's not answering me. Therefore, I'm breaking it or I'm nullifying it. That's the real reason that the revocation or whatever it's called works, because of the fact that he gives up hope in its ability. He says it has no power. It's like if a guy has a deity or a religion and he turns around and he says, unfortunately, it doesn't work. It's no good. But here we say that no, it's not a problem. He can be mevatel the Avodah Zarah of a friend too. And he can even be mevatel Avodah Zarah by force. Anyway, it doesn't end over there. Rabbi Chanina disagreed. Megadef bar Rabbi Chanina. Rabbi Chanina ridiculed this ruling. And he said the following. Does Rabbi Elazar HaKapor Berivi not know of this principle? That which we learned in another Mishnah. In another Mishnah, we learned about a person who so-called saves Avodah Zarah, something, and he saves it from a lion or an animal. In other words, somebody lost his possession, whatever it was, and it might have been a possession which was for a good omen. He thought he could keep his little god with him in his pocket or whatever it is, his little piece of Avodah Zarah, his little gold chain or whatever it was. And I don't know whatever, how he started running because an animal attacked. So it went off with an animal. It went off with the river overflooded or the sea overflooded. And it was an impossible situation. And somebody else, some other clever person managed to save it, managed to get this thing back. He doesn't know whose it was, but he managed to get it back. So the Mishnah says that two things, that first of all, the person who retrieves it can keep it. This is actually discussed in Baba Mitzvah in the laws of articles that are lost. There's a concept called Yiush or Yiush Sholem Midas, meaning how is it that a person can keep something? Let's say a person finds cash in the street. He's allowed to keep it. You know why? Because the owner will most definitely relinquish hope. He doesn't believe he's going to get it back. First of all, most people are dishonest, sadly. Secondly, he has no way to describe. Secondly, he has no way to describe. Listen, there are rare occasions when we're not. My father got a wallet back that he lost in an airport in America. It was a wallet with money in it. He got back. Yeah. It happened to Charlie in Israel. But there's a concept that if a person loses something and he feels that he has absolutely no hope of retrieving it, no one's going to give it back to him. He is mayayish, that means he despairs. He says, that's gone. Yiskadal. It was mine, it isn't mine anymore. Then what he does by that feeling is he revokes his ownership of that which he had. And this happens, Yiush Sholem Midas means that it can even be subconscious. We don't have to wait for him, because we don't know who he is and where he is, to actually realize that he lost it. We can make an assumption that under these circumstances in that place, he's going to render it ownerless quickly. Look, if he lost it in a private place, let's say he lost it. Sorry?
Shabbos you can't pick up.
Shabbos is a different question. Yeah.
You're going to pick it up
yeah,
on Shabbos.
yeah.
You're not going to pick it up at your stand.
You'll call it, mate.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Call the maid.
Books on Shabbos, you can't touch it.
You know, I think I told you my friend's story. My friend's story many years ago. A friend of mine and his dad were walking home from shul, and the pop said, I mean, this goes back, the guy's gone, he passed away like 20 years ago, so this story is like 30 years old. He's walking back and he realizes he had a 5 rand coin in his pocket. I think in those days a 5 rand coin was something. It was probably like 30, 40 rand today in buying power.
Oh, really? That's
30 years ago. Probably, I don't know, probably 50 rand. I don't know what it was, probably 30 years ago or so.
Yeah.
But he's walking home from shul. He didn't know what's the best thing to do. So he was walking past a property that had like a ledge, and there were loose bricks on the ledge. So he stuck his coin under a brick in the ledge.
Yeah.
It didn't feel right to just chuck it on the floor. And he stuck it in and he forgot about it. And the next week he's coming home from shul. He's passing the same place. And as he's passing there, a bloke comes up to him and he says, sir, I'm so hungry. Do you have anything for me? And he thinks to himself, it's Shabbos, and then he remembers the coin under the brick. He says to the guy, if you lift that brick, the guy looks at him like, are you nuts? You know, what are you talking about? He says, no, it could be there. I don't know, it was a week ago. Lift that brick, and the guy lifts the brick, and lo and behold, boom. He says, wow, you're amazing.
A real genius.
So if you find something so if the owner relinquishes it, it becomes ownerless. Now that's a law of finders keepers. But over here, what Rabbi Chanina is saying is that the same law should apply to Avodah Zarah. If a person had something for spiritual purposes, it's a deity. He owns it because he worships it and uses it for his religious purposes. When he loses it, at the same time that he renders it ownerless by despairing that he's going to get it back, in other words, loss of the assets, loss of the thing that was his, he also, by default, is relinquishing the idolatrous aspect of it, the Avodah Zarah, because he despairs if he's ever giving it back. So what Rabbi Chanina is saying is, why did Rabbi Lazar HaKapor need to find a guy to revoke the status of that ring that he found? Shouldn't it be good enough that the owner didn't know that the owner would be sure that he's not going to get it back. The owner would have given up hope, which is the reason why he's allowed to keep it. Just like the owner's given up ownership of it and hope, he also would be revoking the status automatically. I can't use it ever again. I'm never going to see it again. I lost it in a place. And he quotes this Mishnah. And based on this Mishnah, Rabbi Chanina is attacking Rabbi Lazar HaKapor. Why did you need it to be revoked? If you could keep it, That's because the owner despaired. If the owner despaired, he revoked his ownership of it, but he also revoked the religious side of it, the Avodah Zarah side. So if we read that inside, Megadef bar Rabbi Chanina ridiculed him. But Leisleila Rabbi Elazar HaKapor, did Rabbi Elazar HaKapor not see this Mishnah? That which we learned in the Mishnah, Hamatzil Mino Ari, a person who saved something that a lion ran off with, Umin a doiv or a bear, Umin a nomer or a cheetah, Umin a gaios, or maybe it was a what is gaios over here? A troop of soldiers, Umin a nar or a river, Umizutu shel yam or a mini tsunami, a wave, or Mishlulisa shel nar, an overflooding of the river. V'hamaitzi basartia, or if somebody finds something on a main thoroughfare on a very busy street, platya gadoila, or a very busy square, you get a big plaza or square. Uv'chol makim sharabi mitzuyin sham, any place which has humongous amounts of people. Hari'elu shalai, we said these things belong to the person who finds it. Finders keepers. Why? As we were saying outside, because their owners give up hope. The owner gives up hope, you can keep it. If the owner gives up hope, he also gives up the status. He himself revoked the status. Why did Rabbi Elazar HaKapor need this particular guy to help with it? So the Gemora says, no. He knew what he was doing. It's true that the owner would give up hope of finding it, but he still would not necessarily revoke its spiritual status, its Avodah Zarah. Because he would say to himself, we'll say it outside and then we'll read it inside in the Gemara. He'd say to himself, hold on a second, what would have happened to my possession? Somebody will find it. And just like I used it for idolatrous purposes, perhaps he will too. What better way to use it than as a deity, than as an Avodah Zarah? So just like I used it for Avodah Zarah, he will use it for Avodah Zarah. So although I'll never see it again, maybe some good guy will get to benefit from it, the same way I benefited from it. That thought causes that he doesn't actually relinquish the Avodah Zarah status of the item. And he even thinks to himself, says the Gemara, and what if a Jew finds it? What if a Jew finds it? He's not going to use it for Avodah Zarah. He says, a Jew will go and sell it to a guy. He'll want the money. He'll say that this piece of Avodah Zarah is valuable. Obviously, this guy doesn't know his halacha. The Jew's not allowed to do that. But he'll say to himself, the Jew will go sell it to the guy, and because he wants the money, and what will the guy who he sells it to? He'll carry on serving it. So either way, its status of Avodah Zarah will continue. If we read it inside, Omar Abaya said, Nahi de binoma ya'ish. Granted, you're correct that he'll give up hope of finding it. Mayisura mima ya'ish. But from the prohibition of Avodah Zarah, who says he'll give up hope? Maymar Omar, he'll certainly say, he'll make a calculation to himself. If the non-Jew finds it, if a non-Jew finds the thing that I lost, he'll daven to it. You know, like I served it, he'll serve it. He'll carry on doing what I did. If a Jew finds it, either the damya yakron, because it's worth a lot of money, he'll sell it to a non-Jew. You know what the Jew's going to do? He's going to Google, what's this thing worth? You know, Google even is a thing now that you can take a picture and it will identify what it is from the picture. He'll say, what's this worth? And the moment he finds that it's worth a lot of money, he'll go and he'll take it and he'll sell it to whoever he's going to pay, and he'll worship it. So what Abaye is explaining, Abaye is answering the attack that Rabbi Chanina made, and he's explaining that this is why Rabbi Elazar HaKapor wanted to find a specific Gentile to revoke the status of this thing, because that was necessary, otherwise it would not be the case. So let's summarize. So basically what we learned is that a dragon is the one that has the scales. The Gemora started off by saying that a dragon is the image that has scales, and then it told us the story of Rabbi Elazar HaKapor, that we learn that you can use any guy to revoke a status, but it must be a person who's compos mentis. It can't be a child. That would mean that if sadly it's a challenged person, a person who's not mentally stable or comprehends things, that also wouldn't be good. If it was like a shoiter, as we say in halacha, a person who's not stable or understands things would also not work. And he does need a guy to revoke it. So I think I'm going to stop over there and we can talk, questions, whatever else, because that's where I'm to. Sorry?
Get to your
Show you, yeah. Literally this page. Literally this page. So yeah.
just to the beginning.
To there. Yeah, having discussed, yeah, this is the end of this concept. Okay. So, yeah.
Protected garden.
Yeah.
Had the following point. So he never have curves. He kept he's coming back after Shabbat. When he saw the garden, that's the time he said, okay, you know what? So something telling them it's not there.
So if you found that money because you happen to be, I don't know what, clicking in the wall, not necessarily would that be considered Jewish because it looks like the person hid it. And because he hid it, he might think he's going to get it back. He might come and find it. So yeah, so it may not be ownerless. Yeah.
If you carry that by mistake,
Yeah.
surely it's better just to leave it.
Yeah, some say just leave it in your pocket. This is what this fellow did. The other way to do it is
So they do say take it out and leave it on the floor or something. That's what they said. If you find money on you,
there's a view that it's even best to take it all the way and then just shake it out the pocket in the next rishus. So that you don't put it down in Rishus Harabim. The problem is also putting it down
that's mutz.
in the Rishus Harabim. Well, you can like shake it out.
Yeah, but I'm taking it in the deep. The intent. It should be. I'm not worrying about him.
Did the best.
What happened to me? I was.
Then why should he come off the shop and you take it? You just leave it. You shouldn't be taking it. It's just getting it back off the shop. Why should he have permission that is being off the shop that he can go and fetch the coins or whatever he had in his pocket?
Well, he should have, I think he would have been better off carrying on with it without stopping. And then when he gets home, to just shake it out of his pocket, not take it out because it's muktzah. You don't want to handle it the regular way, but to shake it out somewhere. Is he not allowed to have it after Shabbos? I think he can. I'll tell you why. Because normally, if you do something premeditated, you're not really allowed to benefit. But I think over here, it would have been an error. If it wasn't an error in the action, it was an error in the knowledge. He thought that what he was doing was the best under the. He was actually a fellow new to Yiddishkeit at the time. So he was doing the best that he thought he could do. And if he was in error, it was like an error of what to do on Shabbos, because technically he shouldn't have handled it.
Yeah, sure.
Or put it down in the street.
We just left it in his pocket and we didn't touch it or anything. What's the difference?
Carrying as well.
But the only thing is, so the thing with carrying.
So what's
No,
with carrying?
the thing with carrying, in a last resort, the way that carrying works, that taking it to where he was on his way to would be best, and then shaking it out of his pocket, because the way carrying works, it's not the carrying, it's what's called, the Gemora in Shabbos describes it, Akira v'halacha. You lift it up from a stationary position in one place with intent, and then put it down in another. It's when it rests in another spot that it becomes a problem. So if he keeps moving, then he's not changing. He's not changing
Get it
anything.
just to be. It happened to me once. I went to a wedding, so the tip was the waiter, my suit.
Yeah,
And I was going, just went back from shul, I put my hand on, oh,
and it was there.
it was there. I mean, what could I do? I just left it. I didn't know what to
You
do.
left it in the suit.
Yeah, I just carried on like it.
So that is the better way to do it. That is the better way to do it. That is the better way to do it, because and to keep walking. Try not to stop. When you say, "Oh my, what's in my pocket?"
No.
Try to keep walking, because it's the stopping. The way that carrying on Shabbos works, the primary issue with Oraisa is that the thing is stationary. You lift it up, you move for Amos, you put it down. If you're moving, then that's not carrying.
He didn't know it was there.
He didn't know when he lifted it up, and also he took it from wherever he left shul, from a private domain. So rather it goes from that place to that place and doesn't get put down the street, which is Rishut HaRabbi. So best would be not to put it down in the street. Yeah.
It's always you go to a wedding or whatever, it's a cash in, you forget to take it out, you go to shul.
Then I'll take it.
Yeah.
Next time, you'll catch it. So we can get the WhatsApp or something.